Welcome to the Thriving Outside the Box podcast. Join me, Dr. Kimberly Grocher, a licensed psychotherapist, executive coach, and yoga and mindfulness meditation teacher, as I shed light on the stories of leaders and entrepreneurs across industries who not only dared to create their own path in their careers, businesses, and lives, but have found a way to do it while thriving mentally, physically, and spiritually. I hope you walk away with the inspiration to do the same. Welcome back to Thriving Outside the Box. I am your host, Dr. Kimberly Grocher, and I'm very excited to have my guest with me today, Ms. Sheryl Hatwood. Sheryl, I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself to people.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Kimberly. I'm Sheryl Hatwood. I am an entrepreneur, a writer, a playwright, a director, a community leader. I work in corporate America, and I lead a wellness lifestyle brand and a functional beverage brand. I produce theater, but more important, I'm a mother and a wife, and a person that understands planting seeds of compassion in other people's lives.
Awesome. So let me tell you a little bit about how I know Sheryl. So I heard about Sheryl through some other community members. We both live in Lower Westchester County, New York. And so when I started doing more things in the community, like trying to create community, because most of my life was in Manhattan or the Bronx before COVID, right? So I lived in Westchester, but everything I did was in the city. And then I was like, well, now that I'm here more often, I need to meet people. And so I was getting out, meeting people, and everybody was, oh, Sheryl Hatwood, and blah, 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 blah. Oh, and Sheryl Hatwood, and blah, 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 blah. And Sheryl Hatwood. And I was just like, who is this Sheryl? And then we met through our stylist, Jennifer Truesdale.
Yes.
Yes.
She's another amazing person in the community. She's a connector, and she can connect people. You say something to her and she's just like, I know who you would fit with, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, she was really good, instrumental in helping us meet.
Yes. So Sheryl, how did you get to this place? Tell me a little bit of your journey.
So my journey wasn't easy. My journey, basically, as a survivor of trauma in my life, I had to learn how to navigate through life with the burdens that I wouldn't face. And it came to after abusing substance, using my body as an example of self-hate, I should say. Mm-hmm. I came to a realization that this was not the life that I'm supposed to lead. I grew up in a very religious family, so I had foundational values and morals that I knew wasn't right. But what my family didn't know at the time is that I was suffering with like these traumas, what I had experienced from age 11. And from age 11, when I was sexually abused, that trauma punctuated a lot of other decisions in my life. And led me down the wrong road to an abusive marriage, substance abuse, attempted suicide. And I was at a real low at my suicidal point where I knew that I wasn't living, because what I didn't want to do is relive the trauma. And I was trying to hide it and mask it. And I've always wore a mask in the community. Everyone thought, I'm this happy-go-lucky person, but they didn't see me in my alone time. They didn't see my self-dialogue. They didn't understand that I didn't really love myself at the time. I was just masking it and trying to be everything to everybody else, because in doing that, I didn't have to look at myself. So years moved along. There's about 10 years of my life where I just lived by default. Anything that occurred, I just reacted to. No planning, just living. And because of the foundation that I had with my parents, and my parents are great, I was raised in a great family, I was able to realize that I wasn't living the way I should have lived. And I wanted to be an example for my daughter. I didn't want to be a statistic. A young Black mother goes left, doesn't rebound. I just never wanted to be a statistic in life. And so I went back to church as I knew it, and I got reintroduced to my faith. And my faith was very instrumental on me applying principles to my journey of my self-love, self-care, because if you don't know who you are, there's no way that you can make it through life. You don't know your purpose. And I think that was a turning point for me because I had no idea who I was. I knew who I wanted to be for other people. Mm-hmm. I knew who I've always been. I knew the shield that I was wearing, but I never took the time to see me. And that is a realization, that's an awakening. And that's where you have to turn inward. You got to get rid of some of the circle that you thought was your circle. You got to reinvent yourself. And for me, thriving outside the box isn't about breaking the rules of life. It's about refusing to let the expectations that were placed on me because the expectations that were put on me grow. Because based on the life I was living, mm-hmm. nothing was expected of me, right? And you kind of take on that dialogue when, oh, you're good for nothing, you do this, you kind of take that on. So my self-dialogue had to change. I had to stop talking about myself in a negative fashion. On a daily basis, I had to be intentional. So what I started to do, I started to go back to school. And I became, I call myself a school hoarder because the more I learned, the more I wanted to learn more. I learned more and I could be a forever student. I love to learn. But, sometime in life you have to make a living. So you have to get off that ship. But not all the way, but I had to get off the ship. So I got my bachelor's because I was a young teenage mother. Mm-hmm. And I left school right before my grade 12 graduation. So I had to get my accreditation of my grade 12. Mm-hmm. And then I got my bachelor's of science and I got my bachelor's of science in legal studies. And then I went on to get my master's. And then I kept going. I was going to take my doctorate and then I'm like, no. And then I decided I was going to go to law school and I took my LSAT. And then it just didn't work out because of the monies. I didn't want to be in huge debt. And so I kind of had to reinvent myself along the way. Mm-hmm. And I'm still reinventing myself and I still had to heal and I still had to face, and I'm still facing some of those traumas today because I have certain triggers. Somebody says the wrong thing to me and I can take that on, but I have to be intentional and think, that's not me. That's not who I am. Some people won't let you be the new person. Some people are happy for you to remain the same. So my journey has been an involvement of self, a realization of self, living in self-awareness, intentionality. I met a wonderful husband who was instrumental in my self-growth because when I met him, he identified that there was things wrong with me and he wanted to take time to get to know me. And I'm like, I've never known a man that wants to really get to know me. They've always just one track. And that was alarming to me because I've started labeling people in life and expectations from other people mm-hmm. based on what I experienced earlier in my life. So it was my mind had to be turned upside down, mm-hmm. rethought from a place of truth and not from a place of assumption.
Right.
I know I said a lot.
No, this is good. I was just listening and just soaking it all up. No. And it's so important. A couple of questions for you, having heard this, because there were different points in your trajectory where you realized, I need to change how I think. I need to change my circle. I need to change how I'm approaching this. Or, oh my gosh, this is something new. I don't quite know how to take this. So I'm going to have to take a look at this, even like with your relationship with your husband. You mentioned your family. You mentioned your faith. Were there other people, resources, tools that really kind of helped you to make those switches? So there is one person who really helped along with my faith, and mm-hmm. that's Iyanla Vanzant. She had a book called 40 Days. In 40 days, my soul opened up. And that book allowed me to write my feelings out. Like I used to journal, but not in the way that those questions were posed to me. And it's a book that became so instrumental in my life that I still have it. And that I gifted to my friends. And I was so glad full circle came in 2019 when I was asked to be the opening speaker for her in Atlanta. It's about 5,000 women.
The Power to Exhale. That's what it was called. And I was just like, look at God. This lady, like, I have every single book that she's written. She's a poet of life, how she views things and how she gives you tools that you never knew she provides you with avenues to get the tools that you think you never had. And that book to me is a reflection of where I came from. And every now and then I look back, not just to feel sorry for myself, but to just see where I've come from. Because you got to remember, sometimes we don't give ourselves enough accolades about where we came from. We think, oh, I'm still arriving. Yeah, we're always arriving and becoming something else. But from where you came from, it's paramount for me to see that I was brought through the fire. And so many doors opened up for me as soon as I spoke my truth. And I think that's why I came up with the principles of the 5 pillars that I live by based on my product line, TRUCE.
Tell us about the product line and also those pillars.
Okay, so the TRUCE brand was built on my journey because I wrote an off-Broadway play about my life story from a position of hurt. It was called The Wounded Soul. And it was based on a poem I had written when I was 16. This poem was identified in school to my parents as someone who's about to commit suicide. And I remember they brought my parents into the school, and I was adamant that no, I'm just writing and whatnot. But I that was around that time for me. And I wrote the book. I wrote the play, The Wounded Soul, and then all these things in my life that I never identified started to come up. And so I stopped. I stopped for about 3 months. And my husband's like, you have to work through it. I'm like, I don't want to think about it. I've never thought about it. I've been fine. He's like, you have to move through it. So I kept writing and I kept writing. I finally went back and finished the play. Some of my friends and some of other professionals said it's one of the most profound set of work they've ever seen because I wrote in myself as a 4-dimensional person. From how I was young, from how I was little till I was grown, and I wrote from my soul's perspective. And they've never seen that. And I don't know why I did it that way, but it came out beautifully. And the timing was ideal because it came out right before the Me Too movement. So, yeah, so the Me Too movement, as soon as my play came out, the Me Too movement came out, it was just blasted maybe about 2 weeks after, and it became the wind behind my play, and it elevated me, and it opened up so many doors of opportunity for me where I could speak to women that were younger women to make healthier choices. And I was able to just able to speak to domestic violence, women who have experienced domestic violence and intimate partner violence. And that to me was so impactful because I realized that I wasn't doing it for me anymore. I was helping people along the way. And that is paramount for me along the way. So I started the book, The Restored Soul, because I wanted to reach a larger crowd because the play I don't know how I did it, but it was done. But it was a sacrifice. It did well, but I couldn't reach the audience I wanted to reach. And so I wanted an instrument to do that. So I did The Restored Soul. So when I spoke my truth, I realized how relevant my story is, my purpose. My purpose is to impact women who have gone through trauma that don't have the tools or the voice to move forward. And I love being that. And so that's how TRUCE was formulated. That was my truth, your relevance, and then your uniqueness, because through your relevance, you realize that there's only one of you. Your story is unique to yourself. It's not going to be identical to somebody else. You might have common denominators, but your story is not the same path, not the same journey, not the same hurts, not the same up and downs. And then you make better choices to elevate yourself and educate. And that's where I kept going. And like, I got into corporate America. My first job was an office overlooking the water. And I looked out the window and I laughed because I just couldn't believe that this is where I was. Like, there was doors of opportunity that opened up for me that I had no business being in. but I know that it was part of the journey of my life because those doors opened up opportunity for me to speak with others. And I'm grateful for every step in my journey. People say, would you change anything of your past? And I would change my decisions, but I wouldn't change the experiences that I learned from them, right? Because the experiences that I had have made me a more in-depth person today.
Wow. Wow. So first of all, I just want to highlight, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your story and your perspective. I have interviewed a lot of therapists, a lot of coaches, and that's great and that's wonderful. And I think we all do important work. And I know you do some coaching too, but I think it's also important to include these other ways of helping people and reaching people and letting your story be told in a way that you help facilitate change in other people's lives, right? But feeding you, but also it doesn't have to be therapy. I think a lot of people think like, oh, if it's wellness, it has to be therapy. It has to be this. It has to be that. No, it can be writing your story. No, it can be sharing your story. It can be channeling it into these creative ways of poetry, of writing a play, of writing a book, developing a brand.
Right. But that's it. That's it. That's so it because a lot of people, for me, my wellness journey is self care. Self care is just a method of how I can use tools to build boundaries, find out who I am, and take care of myself. And self care isn't an escape. Right. Self care is a front, confronting yourself and who you are. Not the version of you that's on vacation when you're like laying on the beach, but the version of you that has painful pieces that are yet unhealed. And self-care is not a trend to me. It's an everyday process where I have practical, intentional self-preservation techniques that I have to use before I start my day. I cannot start my day without meditation, the gym, and prayer. You don't want me before those three. Nobody wants me before I get that. And I have to be intentional about it because I work in corporate America and, a global company. And sometimes they have meetings at 6 a.m. because but I can't do that all the time. And there's times that I'll have to maneuver my schedule, but it sets me totally off balance. So I've been very, very, very clear on my boundaries that between the hours of 6 a.m. and 8:30 a.m., that's my morning time. I don't want to jump out of bed and jump on a computer. I can't start like that. So for me, it's self-care is always not selfishly looking out for but selflessly looking out for self. Because if you don't set the boundaries for yourself, people will set those boundaries for you and they'll widen them and they'll cross them. Whatever you allow will grow. So I'm very clear because I can't blame other people now for things that I allowed to happen. I have an accountability in it. And that was part of my journey too, an accountability factor that, some of the things that happened to me are based on my own decisions. And it's not based on what I went through, but it's because I didn't take the time to stop and think, acknowledge, process, and then move.
Just sitting with everything you just said, because it's so important. It's so important, that accountability piece, that realizing and putting it into practice that you set your boundaries. Because there's so many people who are struggling with that. They get like, oh, well, they won't let me, or this won't let me. And, they're not listening to me, or they don't. And you are like very decisive. I have to do this. This is the boundary. This is the thing. And so I know a lot of people listening have jobs, have full-time jobs, work in corporate, right? How did you do that? How did you work that where you said between 6 and 8:30, I'm not available?
I blocked my calendar. I manage a team of people. So I'm very open. I'm not just about wellness. I give them permission to do the same. I lead by an example. And I'm not one of those leaders that say, if you need the time, take it. But I'm working 24/7. No, I said, you know what? Today, my menopause is hitting me kind of hard. and I really need to lay down for like an hour to be functional. And we have open talks. And my team has said, you know what? I've never had a leader who's so open with me and they can tell me anything. We bounce ideas off. I'm like, take the time you need. We're not surgeons here. Your work will wait. If we can't get it done, we will find somebody else. But please don't push yourself because there's only one you. Work always says, work will say one thing, but there's only one you. You have to take care of yourself no matter what. You have to be loyal to yourself. Unfortunately, there's a lot of companies that are not loyal to the employees. So they'll run you to the road and then, they'll send you flowers at your funeral and then they'll replace you. And so you have to set that gauge and you have to set the thermometers. And I've said to my boss, I had a really great boss. He just retired. We had open communication about everything and he understood that. And through my book, because he read my book, he understood, how important it was for me. So I wasn't a fraud when I'm talking about wellness. I lived it. Mm-hmm. And I really led by example, and I allowed the team that I lead to do the same. It's not just lip service.
No. So I want to kind of segue a little bit, right? Because this is you leading in corporate. This is you being a leader of your team, not just in the work, but also in how you live and how you show up and how you take care of yourself. How you do the work, but also prioritize yourself and kind of demonstrating that me prioritizing myself is not at a disadvantage to you or to the company, right? It actually is an asset to
That's
everyone.
Really good. Yeah. It's not a disadvantage to anyone because of self-care. That's well said. Yes. Well put.
How did you do that? Like then become like this community leader, or not then, because like I'm sure you've always been, but how did you take that out of corporate, out of your own business and into the community to really be a community leader?
I feel like because I practice intentionality, everything I do is with excellence, not perfection, but excellence. I do everything to the best of my ability. If you ask me to do something, I'll do it with the best of my ability. And my work, I went and I used to have this a Woman's Worth Awards where I would have women who've been through adversity, but are also helping other people up at the same time. Because I think it's so important that you have your hand back to bring somebody up. You can't just arrive and say, hi down there, right? So I rented this space, and it's a historical spot in Pelham, and the organization is over 120, it's probably like 130 years old now. The board came and saw my work, how I decorated, how I presented things. And they said they've never seen the club decorate like this. And I'm thinking, this is impossible. This is like historical. And so they called their whole board members in to come and see my work. And it was through then that they invited me to some meetings, and then they asked me to be on the board. So I was on the board of this organization for 2 years. And then after 2 years, they asked me to be president. And so I was the first African-American president in its 127-year history. Most presidential terms there are 2 years. They asked me to stay for 2 more. They wanted me to stay for another one, but I said, no, you have to find a replacement because I have to pivot now. And that's another boundary because I realized my business was taking off. I gave to this organization to help them get to where they need to be in this age. And then I said I would still be a part, but now I'm on an advisory board for that community. So I think you lead by an example and you always show up. How you show up when nobody's looking is who you really are. And so that's how I show up in the world. Everything I do is with excellence. And I may not know how to do something, but you'll never know. I'll figure it out. I'll make a decision. And if that decision doesn't work, I'll Google it. I'll look, I'll call somebody who's been there, but I'll figure it out. Those are the lessons that you learn along the way, how to pivot. If you make a decision, never be reluctant to make another decision. And that's how I make it. If I make a wrong decision, I can always make another decision to get out of that decision. So you have to be decisive. You have to lead by example. So I think that's how the community recognizes me. And so I'm known basically in an area that I don't even live. So that to me is not hilarious, but it's important to see how that community and an affluent community has embraced me, and they know me. If I go in the town of Pelham or Pelham Manor, they know me. And meanwhile, where I live, it's just I'm just another resident, which is fine with me.
Sometimes it's nice to come home and just be another resident.
Yes, I love downtime. I love being by myself, and people don't understand that. I love being by myself because sometimes I just need that quiet. As a business owner, as a corporate leader, as a community participant, it's important to have those downtimes. And my downtimes are quiet. Sometimes I don't want any noise. And I'll just sit and look out the window, or I'll sit in my little cabana that my husband built for me during COVID, and I'll sit in my little living space outside. And it's just nice hearing the birds chirp, the wind blowing. It's the little things now that have evoked my sense of being. And I used to have to stay so busy all the time and I never had time to enjoy those little things. And they're so important for me right now.
I can definitely relate.
I think business people relate to each other. People that do not have businesses don't really understand it, because I have friends calling me, can we meet here? Can we meet here? I'm sorry. My free time doesn't mean that I'm free to do something. My free time means that I have time that I can choose what I want to do. That doesn't mean I want to fill up my calendar. And that sounds selfish to them, but I have longtime friends that understand it. And we don't talk for maybe 1 or 2 weeks. We'll send texts, how you doing? And it's understandable. If I have to babysit you as a friend, I'm sorry.
I love that. It's true. Like, you get to a point where so much of what you do requires you to be on, requires you to get FaceTime. And it's not that you don't love people, and it's not that you don't love community, and it's not that you don't get something from being in connection with other people. But when you've gotten to a place where you are very comfortable with yourself and you know yourself, you need that time to sit and reconnect with yourself.
Absolutely. You say it so poetically. Beautiful. You do. So yeah, and I'm very intentional. That word to me is very intentional. Anything that I do has to be in alignment with who I am now. And so people want to partner with me. They want to do this with me. They have these brilliant ideas. No, not every yes is an open door that you should walk through, right? And I always weigh it and say, is this aligned with my product brand? Is this aligned with who I am? Does that person live according to how, and I'll take a look through their Instagram. I'll take a look through that, because it's just like, I don't want any hypocritical view of me saying something and then I align with something that's totally opposite of the TRUCE brand or what I stand for.
Absolutely. So it's like part of your wellness is also protecting yourself.
Yes.
In all ways.
In all ways. Space, community, experiences, everything. Everything I do is connected. And it may not seem connected to everyone else, but my journey to me makes complete sense with the play, the directing, the brand TRUCE, the fragrance brand, and then the wellness brand. Everything ties together with the same thread of thought.
Yes. Tell us a little bit more about the fragrance and the wellness brand.
So the fragrance line is a luxury self-care fragrance collection that was carefully selected with coconut apricot wax candles and coconut wicks, cotton wicks. I wish they had coconut wicks. Maybe I just came onto something.
Yeah.
And so my fragrance line was how I started the TRUCE journey. And that was about being intentional about what I put in my space. Scents is a memory to people. So all my scents have sandalwood and vanilla in it, because vanilla is comforting and sandalwood reminds me to keep grounded. So this line was intentionally made for self-care. and people who want to advocate in their space and say, this is what I want in my space. This is what I want to remind myself. I'm going to call a truce with myself. And my fragrances are named after the pillars of truth. So I have truth candles. I have relevance candles. I have not yet a unique or a choice, but I do have an elevate room spray, which is a top mover. And these scents they're just warm, woodsy, and soft musk, and they can be worn as personal fragrances or home scents. My room spray, my daughter uses it for a body spray because they're sustainable, they're eco-friendly, and I'm really proud of the fragrances that I've created because I haven't gone to school for it. I just call myself a creative. So from there, making my fragrance brand, I evolved into, I started talking about self-care and whatnot, so I want to authenticate who I was. And that's when I went and took the course on being a wellness coach. And because I branched out into the wellness line, I wanted to have a specific product that was talking about, what you're pouring into yourself. And the name of the products are intentional: Zinger, the boldness of Zinger, and renewal, to restore. So it's what you pour into yourself. So pour in the boldness, pour in the restoration, pour in the renewal. So it's very symbolic. And again, this word is coming up: intentional. My brand is intentional about wellness as a holistic approach, body, mind, and soul, because I don't think that, it's not think. I know that wellness cannot be segmented and you just do one aspect of it and not treat another.
No, I just want to speak on your products for a second. Because I love candles, but I'm also very choosy about candles because I'm very sensitive to scents. Like, I have very sensitive senses, and I love your candles. I burn your candles for hours on end. And your juices, my gosh, I have my neighbor, my husband, they're all like, when are you getting that juice again? Where's that juice? Like, can you order the juice? What's her information? I'm going to get the juice. Like, your products are very much, now that I'm hearing you talk about like excellence and how that's a value of yours, it definitely is evident in your products. And I remember last year, you came to our Black Women's Wellness Retreat.
Yes.
That we did as Delta. I think you sold out.
I did.
Everybody was around your table. Like bees to honey. Like,
right.
Yes. So if you're listening, I would highly recommend that you check out Sheryl's products. And I'm not just saying that. I don't buy everybody's stuff. We have to be intentional with our dollars. But
yes.
But it's amazing. And what you're doing is amazing.
Thank you. And the beverages are now in store.
Yes.
At New Rochelle, a farm supermarket in New Rochelle. And there's other opportunities that are presented itself, but they're always available online. We ship to any location within the US.
I have to tell a story about that too, because I went to the store get it. And I walked in and I was looking for it. And this woman was carrying a couple of them. I said, "Oh, where are those juices?" And she's like, "Over there." I think they're almost gone.
They sold out twice already. So that, to me, that's like, it's amazing. It's amazing. I am so blessed, and I'm so grateful for the support and the people that are part of the TRUCE family and the journey, because it means so much to me. And these little small steps are preparing me for the bigger opportunities that are coming along. So thank you for your support.
Absolutely. They're definitely coming. They're definitely coming. Is there anything else you want to share, or something that you think I should be asking you?
Let me see. I think I'm an open book, right? So I always say there's no question off the limits. If I don't know the answer, I'll tell you I don't know. But no, this is who I am. This is me. There's no surprises. It's just, I used to be this extrovert, all in the community. And I love talking to people, but I find I'm very inward now. I'm at peace. The older I get, there's things that are more important to me. And I just love the title of your show, Thriving Outside of the Box, because it's just symbolizes not letting the expectations of others define who you are, what you do, and how you do it, because everybody's journey is different. And thriving looks different to you than it looks for me, than it looks for another. And the art of comparison is the art of self deflation, because no two people are alike. And when I stopped comparing myself and started honoring my values, nothing else mattered. I love cheering my friends on. I love cheering on other business owners, because each one is adding some kind of intentional purpose to this world. So that's what I just embrace your purpose, know who you are, and watch your self-dialogue.
I love it. I love it. And I think we're going to end on that note, because you said it all beautifully.
Oh, thank you, Kimberly. I appreciate Dr. Kimberly. I want to give you your credit where credit due, and your honor. It's a privilege to be on your show, and thank you for inviting me here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So check out the show notes. All of Sheryl Hatwood's information will be there, including her amazing products. And thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.